what is leadership for you?
Yeah, there's been books written on this thing, right? The burning question, like, how do you define leadership? But, for me, leadership is about being the visionary. There's got to be somebody that understands and sees very clearly in their own mind what it is that needs to be created. There has to be some kind of end goal, end vision that everyone is working towards to create. So there's a very creative side to leadership, isn't there, from that perspective? But there's also this wonderful ability to be able to hold that image and that vision and that end result in your mind, but also bring people along with you on the journey so that it can actually happen, so that you have a common purpose, that you're all in it together, you're all working towards something bigger than any one person in the equation. And it just allows everybody, not just the people under the leadership, but also the leader themselves. It just allows everybody to benefit, because it gives space and room for people to grow and to stretch and to evolve as individuals. And so, if I were to just give it a real couple of lines of what my definition of leadership was, that's how I would define it, in its essence.
What would you say would be the top 3 problems that they normally face?
What I noticed from my experience working in the corporate world is that there was always a real pace. There was always a real pace of change, not just workload, that's something different, but there was always new products, new revenue streams. There was always new departments, new clients. There was always this newness coming into the organization. And it was very difficult, and is still very difficult, for organizations to actually keep up with the pace of change, because we just can't keep up with that pace. Because by the time that you've won I used to work a lot in agencies, right? So I know a lot about winning accounts and new business coming in almost instantly. It takes time to bring the right people in. It takes time to reallocate resources internally. It takes time to get the people resource in place. So that speed of change is a very challenging part of running business and growing, because we all want to grow, we all want to get involved in exciting new projects, but it's the resource aspect that can be very challenging, of being able to keep up with that pace and keep up with that change. And I think the second part of that kind of relates, the second point kind of relates to that a little bit. I guess everything's connected, right? Nothing sits in isolation, but it relates to it in that there's always been a bugbear of organizations of being able to find the right talent. I worked in talent acquisition for 12 or 13 years before I shifted into what I'm doing now and running the academy. And there was always a war on talent. I worked in digital marketing for many years, sourcing talent, and it was one of those industries that was growing way faster than how people were able to upskill and have just experience under their belt doing. So it was very challenging to find good talent and excellent talent, and there's so many different roles popping up with all this newness in technology and newness of revenue streams and things shifting and changing in various industries, that we've got to start upskilling people who have relatable experience, because there's just not going to be enough people out there in the marketplace who actually have direct experience. So there's a real acquisition challenge that has always been there. I don't know that there's really a magic wand that's going to fix that anytime soon, other than just creating more ways of being able to take excellent, good people with the right values and upskill them in the actual hardcore skills that you need them to have. And I think the second and third, second part to that is retaining talent as well. It's like I say, if 40% of people are actually considering leaving their job because of everything that we've been through, then companies really need to focus on how they can start paying attention more and retaining their top talent. There's always going to be people they may accept that it's time for them to move on. There's always going to be that. But there are people that they really do not want to lose them. So retention, I think, is going to be, if I were a leader in an organization right now, I think I would be losing a little bit of sleep about my best people leaving, and I'd want to have something in place that made sure that didn't happen.
What are the important leadership capabilities or skills you must have in the next normal to continue to lead effectively, having said all those problems that, most do face?
Yeah. So it's funny because I take a lot of these learnings from running my own business and just watching how more public leaders are operating. Because there's definitely a shift of change in the way that we want to interact and the connection that we have with whoever is leading the company that we work for. Now, I can think of organizations that I've worked for where it's been very old school. There's, some guy at the top of the company that's running things. You've never spoken to them. They have their own office tucked away somewhere on the top floor. And there's just no interaction, accessibility. There's nothing that you know about this person. And what we can see from how we are just evolving in our mindset and the way that we like to work, we need to feel that connection, to be motivated, to be driven, to feel like we are all working towards a common purpose. So I feel like the three sort of key areas, if you like, of what needs to be seen within leadership is, first of all, being very observant. Be very observant around what is actually happening, not what you think is happening, not what you want to be happening, but what is actually happening within the organization. Start listening to people, troops on the ground, about what they want, what their challenges are, what they need. And it will give you clues along the way as to what really needs to be installed at a leadership level. I worked with a very charismatic leader when I was at Fox, who you would never know that he was the president, the CEO of the organization. You would just never know that. He was so friendly. He would walk into the office, traveling in from wherever he had been, and he would have a little chat with the receptionist, and then he'd move on into the floor one and start chatting to people. He was liked, he was known, he was trusted. And I think that's a wonderful quality to have in a leadership style, because it helps people know you, it helps people connect with you, and it just helps people want to do more to contribute to the greater good of what the company is trying to achieve, particularly in the more challenging times, right? So I guess that kind of leads me on very nicely to the second element that I think is really important within leadership right now is visibility, for our leaders to be public figures, because it's kind of what they are, but not necessarily public figures as in to everybody else, but public figures within their own organization. In the same way that we know Richard Branson, if you had that within your own company, you had lots of town halls, you had lots of interactions, you understood what was going on from a leadership perspective, there'd be so much more motivation and commonality between everybody. So I think visibility is very important from a leadership quality in this next normal. So maybe there's a little bit more, there's some learnings that can be taken from public figures out there that we see. And the third one, I think, we just, as employees, seeing this through the employee lens right now, but I think all that we want is transparency. We want to
Mhm.
know what's going on. I think
Yeah.
that gone are the days where leadership can kind of squirrel away and keep things to themselves, and only on a need-to-know basis will you
Mhm.
be told things about what's happening with the future development of the organization. I think we're in an era now where, perhaps because of social media, that everything's so accessible and there's so much, there's so much access that we have to many different things. We need something similar in ethos within organizations, that there is a level of transparency. Clearly, there will be some confidential things that can't be shared. There will be some privacy. I'm not saying that everyone needs to know everything, but I think there could be more effort made in communication within
Mhm.
organizations to help them feel more included and to
Mhm.
help them feel more together and united. And that will really need to come through in transparency and consistency of communication from a leadership perspective. Not just changes that are happening, but maybe some of the challenges that we face, maybe the direction of where things are going, maybe how they might actually need certain certain traits for people to help them achieve and step up and achieve certain things. I think there could be something very there could be a real power in the collective if
True.
leaders were to become more observant, more visible, and more transparent with their communication internally.